Hello and welcome back. In this video I'm going to be accomplishing several things. First off, it's how to bind a receiver and the receiver and the transmitter together. And I want to show you sort of how I simulate what's in an airplane in the way of electronics. And I also want to fully test the receiver and all its channels. So to begin with, I have my DX9 transmitter. I have the AR 6210 receiver. I have this box which is it's got 6 servos on it. They're labeled throttle, rudder, elevator, left aileron, right aileron, and gear. So these 6 servos is what you'd find. These are micro servos, or small servos, and this is what you'd find in a small electric airplane. And I have all the wires that come out the back, and they're all labeled. Make it easy for knowing who plugs in. I recommend labeling all of your servo wires when you put them in an airplane. So when you unplug everything, you know where they go back. Plus I have my battery and the lead to the battery taped to the box so it's easy to hold on to. In addition, most of the time on a airplane you have a switch. Okay, this is a standard switch, or I'll call it a standard switch. It's from Horizon Hobby. It's the Spectrum 3-wire switch harness, SPM9530. It's about $14. And I'll explain the switch a little bit. This is the off side of the switch, so I don't know if you can see it or not. There's an off and an on. So the switch is now in the off position, and in the off position you have 2 wires. One wire is the female portion that it plugs the battery into, so the lead from the battery will plug into that. So and then this other wire on the off side is sort of just a direct pass through while it's in the off position, so that you can test the battery and see what the voltage is while the airplane is in the off position. Frequently you want to do this because before you start anything, before you get ready to take off, you want to make sure what the battery is saying. So that lead will allow you to test the airplane's battery before you turn it on. The third wire is on the on side of the switch. So that's the off side. Here's the on side. It's got 1 wire. It's got the male lead to it, and that's going to go into the receiver so that you turn on the airplane by turning on the switch. In addition, one more thing I'll mention is this lead here on the off side that I normally use for testing is sometimes called a charging lead, because it will allow you to charge the battery in the airplane without taking it out. I don't recommend that for several reasons. One, it gets when you're charging these are nickel metal hydride batteries. When you're charging them, they could get hot, overheated. And so I don't recommend charging it in the airplane, but many people do, so it's, you know, personal preference. In addition, for my setup, I'm using my individual nickel metal hydride batteries, and I always want to charge those individually, which you can't do in the airplane. So, but I do use this lead to test, and I'll show you how we do that in a minute. Well, in fact, I think I'll show you right now. What I'm going to do is take the lead from the battery and plug it into the off side of the switch so that the switch is off. That's the off side of the switch, and this is the other lead on the off side of the switch. I'm going to take my digital Hanger 9 Hanger 9 digital variable voltmeter, variable load voltmeter. Okay, and it has the female end, so I can plug it into the male end, and that shows that the battery is 6.49, reasonably good charge on it. And so this lead that I'm testing the battery with is going to be mounted in this mounting set, in which there's a little port on the plastic thing. So it has a charging port on it. That's why it's called a switch with charging port. And so this wire will get put into this little plastic thing that sits on the outside of the airplane and allows you to test it. So our battery is connected to the switch. I'm going to take the on side of the switch and plug it into the receiver, and for the purposes of this test, we're going to do several things here. So for the first purpose, I'm just going to plug it into the gear channel. Doesn't matter what channel you plug it into. Remembering that these wires are directional, and the black wire from the servo servo lead wire goes on the bottom of the AR6210, and you can tell that because, let me see here, if you look real closely, right down here toward the bottom, there's sort of a little schematic diagram that has a little square symbol, a plus and a minus, and what that means is that the minus wire is the bottom wire, the middle wire is the plus or the red wire, and the third wire is the signal wire, where the signal travels from the receiver to the servo to control the servo. So I'm going to plug that into the gear channel. Okay. So we're not going to turn it on yet, because what we're going to do next is show you how we bind the transmitter to the receiver. And for that we will need the bind plug, and this comes with every I got dozens of them. This comes with the little orange tag on it, and is just a small little loop where the two outside wires are looped together. And that's going to go into the bind port, which is the first port over on this side of the receiver. And remember, this is directional too. So if you're having trouble putting it in, try turning it over, because there is a the way it's formed physically, it should only go in one direction. So that's the bind port and the bind plug. Okay, and so the first thing I'm going to also plug in one of the servos here. I think I'll use the rudder servo. I'm sorry, the throttle servo. So the throttle servo I'm going to plug into the throttle channel, which is next to the bind port, and just plug that in, making sure the black wire is to the bottom. And that's so when I bind this receiver that it actually is show that it's working. So I got that ready. Bring the box a little bit closer. So the bind procedure is in the manual for the transmitter, and you turn the receiver on first, and when I do that, I'll try to lay these up here. You will see that the receiver and its remote antenna begin to blink, and hopefully you'll see that in just a minute. And so after you turn that on, then you're going to turn on the transmitter, but as you do that, you're going to press this black button on the top, which is the bind button, and you'll hear it speak to you. So let's give it a whirl. So got the switch here. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, and hopefully you can see these things are blinking away here. Okay, and I'm going to get a little further away off camera here because you should be 18 to 24 inches away at least. I'm going to hold the bind button down and turn on the radio.
Binding. Bind failed.
Okay. That happens every once in a while. I'm going to move the box a little further away, and I'm going to turn the switch off. When it fails, it sometimes means that the you are too close. So I'm going to try again here. Turn on the. I'm going to turn on the radio for a second just to verify that I'm on the. When you're doing binding, you always want to make sure you're on the right model before you do anything. So I'm just checking to make sure I'm on the Kadet LT-40, which is the one I want. So I'm going to turn the radio off. Let it turn off. And I'm going to do it again. So here we go. Switch on. Everybody's blinking. Hold the bind button. Turn the radio on.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds.
Okay, I'm going to.
Bind complete.
I just released my finger off the button. When you hear it say that the bind started working, it says, you know, DSMX 22 milliseconds, that's when you release the button, and then the bind is complete. Now that the bind is complete, you see the little orange light there is solid. It's not blinking anymore. And if I get the box a little closer, this little servo here will work when I start moving the throttle on the transmitter. So the throttle channel is working. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the switch off, because you should always turn the airplane off before you turn the transmitter off. So I'm going to turn the switch off, and I'm going to turn the transmitter off, and you should immediately remove the little bind connector here. Remove that. Now, the next thing is I want to test all 6 channels of the transmitter. I'm sorry, of the receiver with the transmitter. So I got the throttle channel in, and I'm going to put all the other ones in. So the next one over is the aileron, and in this case this is the right aileron, and I always mark my right ailerons with the blue tape to distinguish it from the left aileron. Then the next channel is the elevator. I'm going to take the elevator and making sure all the black leads are to the bottom, black wires to the bottom, and you just line it up and put it in. Next one is the rudder. I'm just reading them off on the receiver. So here's the rudder channel and the rudder wire to the rudder servo. Okay. And the next one is the gear. Okay, so I'm going to put the gear wire in. And the last one is the left aileron or aux1 channel. And so now I've got 6 servo wires, and the only slot left for the battery is the bind port, and that's fine. You can put the battery into any port, and so I'm going to put it into the bind port. Okay. And the switch, just make sure it switches off. Yes, switches off. Okay. So I got all 7 wires in the receiver, and now this is how you normally do things. You turn on the transmitter first, and it says, okay, I'm up and I'm on the right model. Remember, this is model matched, so if you were to be on the wrong model and this has been bound, nothing will happen, because this model number 26 is bound to this and only this receiver, and won't work with any other receiver. Okay, so now we're going to test to make sure that all of these servos work, and I'll test them one at a time. So I'm going to turn on the switch. Okay. And you can hear a bunch of things go moving around. So we already, hopefully everything is going to work here. The throttle channel, okay, there's the throttle channel. That beep you heard in the background is the timer going off, and I'll talk about the timer some other time. Okay, now if you watch the left and right aileron, I'll do those, and they should both move at the same time. Now later on, when we get to the real thing, those things have to go in opposite directions usually, and I'll show you how we do that. Then the elevator. There, the elevator's working, and the rudder. Okay, and then the one at the bottom with the round piece on it here. It's called a round servo arm. There's a switch on the transmitter, and I'll flip that switch. Okay, and speaking of switches, I think I may have covered this before. I'm going to cover it again. This switch here is the one I'm using. It's on the bottom of left side of the, or the bottom of the 2 switches on the left side of the transmitter, and that's the one that people normally use, and what is the default switch for Spectrum radios. So I think that's it. We've got it bound. We've tested all 6 servos. So we'll go on to the next step concerning the radios. Thank you.